Devaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Nashtiprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 21, Instructions by Maharaj Prithu, text number 43 onwards. So Maharaj Prithu is further speaking to the assembly. Tesham aham pad saroj renum arya vaheyadhi kirit mayu yam nityada vibhratashu papam nashyati amam sarva guna bhayanti. All respectable personalities present here, I beg the blessings of all of you that I may perpetually carry on my crown, the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmins and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. He who can carry such dust on his head is very soon relieved of all the reactions which arise from sinful life, and eventually he develops all good and desirable qualities. It is said that one who has flinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which means unflinching faith in the Vaishnava or the pure devotee of the Supreme Lord, develops all the good qualities of the demigods. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagvati akinchana sarvaira gunes tatra samasate sura. Prahlad Maharaj also said, Naisha matis tavad urukramangri. Unless one takes the dust of the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava on one's head, one cannot understand what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. And unless one knows the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one's life remains imperfect. A great soul who has fully surrendered to the Supreme Lord, after understanding Him fully and after repeatedly undergoing austerities and penances for many, many lives, is very rare. The crown of a king is simply a big load if the king or head of the state does not actually bear the dust of the lotus feet of Brahmins and Vaishnavas. In other words, if a liberal king like Prithu Maharaj does not follow the instructions of Brahmins and Vaishnavas, or does not follow the Brahminical culture, he is simply a burden on the state, for he cannot benefit the citizens. Maharaj Prithu is a perfect example of an ideal chief executive. So he says, give me the blessings that I may perpetually carry on my crown the dust of the lotus feet of such Brahmins and Vaishnavas until the end of my life. And so what does it mean to take the dust of the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava or the Brahmins and Vaishnavas on one's head or on one's crown for a king? That means the dust of the lotus feet of any person is the lowest thing on his body. And we keeping that dust on our head, or Maharaj Prithu is saying, let me keep that on my crown, means we have to take such a humble position that the topmost part of my body is lower than the lowest part of the body of Vaishnavas and Brahmins. Of course, it also means literally we can take the dust, but that doesn't serve the whole purpose. Until our mentality is like that I am lower than the lowest of the person in front of me, the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. And also, it also means to follow the instructions of the Brahmins or the Vaishnavas. See, like Prabhupada says, unless one takes the dust of the lotus feet of a pure Vaishnava on one's head, one cannot understand what the Supreme Personality of Godhead is. Means we have to take a humble position and then try to follow the instructions of such a Vaishnava, of such a devotee. And then it has some possibility that we might be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Without that, there's no way. There's no way at all. And everybody has shown by their example. Prithu Maharaj is praying like that here. Before that, we studied about Dhruv Maharaj, how he followed the instructions of Narad Muni. And then Narad Muni himself, how he followed the instructions of the Bhaktivedanta Swamis who came to his house, so the sadhus, and he followed the instructions. Yudhishthira Maharaj always looking for different Vaishnavas, different sadhus to follow their instructions. Vidurji is asking, very humbly, is asking the questions to Maitreya Muni, basically to follow his instructions. So unless and until we take a humble position, we cannot understand anything. And Krishna says, Janma karma chame divyam yovet evam yoveti tatvata. I mean, until one knows my transcendental position of activities and birth, if one knows that, then this is his last birth. But until, and we cannot know that. It's not by reading the books we'll find that out, or we'll figure that out. This is a matter of realization. And the realization comes, tadviddhi paranipatena pariprashnena sevya. When we humbly approach a spiritual master and serve him, and then inquire from him, and he can reveal that truth to us because he has seen it. So the point is, one has to be very humble, humbly approach the sadhus, the devotees, and then only there is some possibility of us attaining some knowledge. And when we try to follow those instructions, otherwise there's no way. And then, like Prabhupada says, if a liberal king like Prithu Maharaj does not follow the instructions of Brahmins and Vaishnavas, or does not follow the Brahminical culture, he is simply a burden on the state, for he cannot benefit the citizens. So the kingly order is just a burden on the state, or burden on the crown or on the throne, if they cannot follow the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas, the devotees, the sadhus. And in Kali Yuga, this is the problem. They don't want to follow the sadhus because there are so many talks about keeping the religion and state separate. Keeping the religion and state separate, in one sense it is good because we don't want religion to interfere with the state. State's working. But the instructions have to come from the sadhus. Not that the sadhus have to take over the state. Just like in Islamic countries, the religion has completely taken over the state. And it's a big problem. But at the same time, one cannot disregard the religion either, or the sadhus. So there has to be, balance has to be found. Gunayanam Sheeladhanam Kritagyam Vridhashrayam Samvrittayanu Asampada Prasidatam Brahmakulam Gavam Cha Janardana Sanucharashmayam. Whoever acquires a Brahminical qualifications, whose only wealth is good behavior, who is grateful and who takes shelter of experienced persons, gets all the opulence of the world. I therefore wish that the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his associates be pleased with the Brahmins, with the Brahmin class, with the cows, and with me. So, Brahminical qualifications whose only wealth is good behavior, who's grateful and who takes shelter of experienced persons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is worshipped with the prayer Namo Brahmane Devaya Go Brahmanitaya. Thus, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead respects and protects the Brahmins and Brahminical culture, as well as the cows. In other words, wherever there are Brahmins and Brahminical culture, there are cows and cow protection. In a society of civilization in which there are no Brahmins or Brahminical culture, cows are treated as ordinary animals and slaughtered at the sacrifice of human civilization. The specific mention of the word Gavam by Prithu Maharaj is significant because the Lord is always associated with cows and his devotees. In pictures, Lord Krishna is always seen with cows and his associates, such as cowherd boys and the gopis. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot be alone. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj said Sanu Charashcha, indicating that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is always associated with his followers and devotees. So even in pictures, Krishna is never shown alone. Either he has a cows or gopas, gopis, if nothing else, his flute will be there. So Prabhupada is saying in a society where Brahmins are there, then the cow they're always with the cows. So then the cows are treated properly. And if Brahmins and cows are treated properly, given proper respect, that state will definitely flourish because the mercy of the Supreme Lord will be there. A devotee acquires all the good qualities of demigods. He is Gunayanam, the reservoir of all good qualities. His only asset is good behavior, and he is grateful. Gratitude for the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one of the qualities of Brahmins and Vaishnavas. Everyone should feel grateful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because he is maintaining all living entities and supplying all their necessities. As stated in the Vedas, Katha Upanishad, Eko Bahunam Yavidadhati Kama. The Supreme One is supplying all necessities to the living entities. The living entity who is therefore grateful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is certainly qualified with good characteristics. So Brahmins or Vaishnavas, sadhus, they are grateful to the Lord for supplying everything in their lives. Whatever they need, the Lord has supplied. So the quality of gratefulness comes when we are humble. When we are not humble, when we are too proud of ourselves, of our thinking that by my doing, I have become this and I have become that, then that person cannot be grateful. And gratefulness is one of the good qualities that a devotee has. He's always grateful. Grateful to the extent that even if something seemingly opposite happens in his life, he is still grateful to the Lord. Just like there is a story of a king and his minister. And minister was a devotee of the Lord, and he always had the habit of saying, "Oh, it's all mercy of the Lord." So the king and the minister, once they went to the forest for hunting, and while the king was hunting and he was shooting arrows, so somehow his finger got cut. And the minister, as usual, he says, "Oh, it's the mercy of the Lord." King was very upset. What is this nonsense? I lost my finger and you saying it's the mercy of the Lord? So when the king came back, he put the minister in the prison house. So again, a week later, king went to the forest for hunting excursion. And this time it so happened he got separated from his soldiers. So he was alone in the forest. And in the forest, some dacoits were there, and somehow they overpowered the king and they captured him. And they brought him to their cave where they're gonna do the sacrifice, human sacrifice for Mother Kali. And when they bathed the king and they did whatever they had to prepare him for the sacrifice, and when they were about to sacrifice, the pujari, dacoit's pujari, he noticed that the finger, one finger of the king was not was not there properly. It was cut in half. And he said, "Oh no, no, we cannot make this sacrifice because it's not complete. So we cannot make this sacrifice." So the dacoits they were angry because of this little loophole. They had to waste so much of time and energy, and so they beat up the king and they just let him go because he was of no use for them. So the king somehow came back to his palace, and then he called the minister and he said, "Oh, I really didn't understand when you said it's all Krishna's mercy. So I'm glad, because if I had didn't have the finger cut, then my throat, my head would have been cut today. I would have been sacrificed. So thanks to that cut in the finger, I got saved." But the king said, and the minister said, "Oh, it's all it's all mercy of the Lord." But the king said, "I put you in prison." And minister was still saying, "Oh, it's mercy of the Lord. I put you in the prison for so many days. You were in the prison house. How can this be mercy of the Lord?" The minister smilingly he said, "O king, usually you would take me to the hunting for the hunting excursion in the forest. So this time when you went, if I was not in the prison, I would have gone with you. And when the dacoits captured you, they would have captured me also. They would have let you go because you were incomplete. But I don't have any problem in my body, and they would definitely have sacrificed me. So definitely it was mercy of the Lord. He protected me." But this mood of seeing everything as mercy of the Lord can only come when we are at that level, at least of mode of goodness, and we are humble. Humility is the backbone of making progress in spiritual life. It's a backbone. It's not like just, okay, when we are chanting, we humble, or when we are meeting devotees, then we become humble, or try to show off that we are humble. No, we got to be humble. Humility means understanding. I have no qualities. I have no good qualities. Whatever qualities, whatever achievements, whatever capabilities I have, they're only by the mercy of Krishna. It's only given by Krishna for his service, and that's it. There's no other purpose, no other cause, and no other effect. That is humility. The word Vriddhashrayam is very significant in this verse. Vriddha refers to one who's advanced in knowledge. There are two kinds of old men: he who is advanced in years, and he who is experienced in knowledge. One who is advanced in knowledge is actually Vriddha, Gyan Vriddha. One does not become Vriddha simply by advancing in age. Vriddhashrayam, a person who takes shelter of a superior person who's advanced in knowledge, can acquire all the good qualities of a Brahman and be trained in good behavior. When one actually attains good qualities, becomes grateful for the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and takes shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, he is endowed with all opulence. Such a person is a Brahman or Vaishnava. Therefore, Prithu Maharaj invokes the blessings and mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his associates, devotees, Vaishnavas, Brahmins, and cows. And how humbly Prithu Maharaj is asking for the blessings, asking for the mercy. So that's a quality of a devotee. Only a devotee can be that humble. Text 45. Maitreya vacha iti brvanam nripatim pitri deva dvijatayaha tushtu vur hrishtu manasaha sadhu vadena sadvaha. The great sage Maitreya said, after hearing King Prithu speak so nicely, all the demigods, the denizens of Pitriloka, the Brahmins, and the saintly persons present at the meeting congratulated him by expressing their goodwill. When a person speaks very nicely at a meeting, he is congratulated by the audience, who expresses their goodwill with the word sadhu sadhu. This is called sadhuvad. All the saintly persons, pitas, and demigods who were present at the meeting and heard Prithu Maharaj express their goodwill with the word sadhu sadhu. They all accepted the good mission of Prithu Maharaj and they were fully satisfied. So they were fully satisfied, and that is when the yajna is complete. When everybody is satisfied. Supreme Lord is satisfied, the demigods, the denizens of heavenly planets, the Brahmins, the devotees, everybody is satisfied. Putrena jayate lokan iti satyavati shruti brahmadanda hataha papo yad veno ati tarattamaha. They all declared that the Vedic conclusion that one can conquer the heavenly planets by the action of a putra or son was fulfilled. For the most sinful Vena, who had been killed by the curse of the Brahmins, was now delivered from the darkest region of hellish life by his son, Maharaj Prithu. So according to the Vedic version, there is a hellish planet called Put, and one who delivers a person from there is called Putra. So Putra means Put Trayate iti Putra. So one who delivers his ancestors from going to the hellish planet named Put. The purpose of marriage, therefore, is to have a putra or son who is able to deliver his father, even if the father falls down to the hellish conditions of Put. Maharaj Prithu's father, Vena, was the most sinful person and was therefore cursed to death by the Brahmins. Now all the great saintly persons, sages and Brahmins present in the meeting, after hearing from Maharaj Prithu about his great mission in life, became convinced that the statement of the Vedas had been fully proved. So Put is only one hellish planet, although there are many, many hellish planets, and 28 planets to be exact. So, but nowadays, the father is sinful and the son is in fact more sinful than the father. So if the father is going to hell, son is there to really push him down to another hell also by doing so many sinful activities. Because they don't believe in all these Vedic injunctions. The purpose of accepting a wife in religious marriage, as sanctioned in the Vedas, is to have a putra, a son qualified to deliver his father from the darkest region of hellish life. Marriage is not intended for sense gratification, but for getting his son fully qualified to deliver his father. But if a son is raised to become an unqualified demon, how can he deliver his father from hellish life? It is therefore the duty of a father to become a Vaishnava and raise his children to become Vaishnavas. Then even if by chance Of course, if the father is a Vaishnava, he'll never fall down into hell. But even if by chance father falls into a hellish life in his next birth, such a son can deliver him, as Maharaj Prithu delivered his father. And later on, it will be shown how Prahlad Maharaj delivered Hiranyakashipu. And in the same regard, Chanakya Pandit says, if the son is not a devotee or not an intelligent person, then what's the use of having a son like that? Then he compares putra to mutra. He said both come from the same place. So what's the difference? So better that the son, better we make the son a devotee. And for that, parents have to be devotees. Because the children, they learn it from the example set by their parents, more than they learn from their words. Mostly it's the example set by the parents. Until there are some agyat sukritis for the child and he comes in contact with devotees and then he takes up the process. But generally it is the example set by the parents. That's what creates a big sanskar in the mind of the son. Text 47. Hiranyakashipu chapi bhagwan nindaya tamaha vivekshurati gat sunoho praladasya anubhavataha. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu, who by dint of his sinful activities always defied the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, entered into the darkest region of hellish life. But by the grace of his great son, Prahlad Maharaj, he was also delivered and went back home, back to Godhead. When Prahlad Maharaj was offered benediction by Narasimhadev due to his great devotion and tolerance, he refused to accept any benediction from the Lord, thinking that such acceptance was not befitting a sincere devotee. The rendering of service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in expectation of a good reward is deprecated by Prahlad Maharaj as mercantile business. Because Prahlad Maharaj was a Vaishnava, he did not ask a benediction for his personal self, but was very affectionate towards his father. Although his father tortured him and would have killed him had he himself not been killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Prahlad Maharaj begged pardon for him from the Lord. This favor was immediately granted by the Lord, and Hiranyakashipu was delivered from the darkest region of hellish life, and he returned back to Godhead by the grace of his son. Prahlad Maharaj is a topmost example of a Vaishnava who is always compassionate towards sinful persons suffering a hellish life within this material world. So Prahlad Maharaj, we'll study about him in the 7th canto in detail. And we know how he was tortured and he was about to be killed by Hiranyakashipu himself. So far he had given the job to his soldiers, to the teachers, but now he took it upon himself to kill Prahlad. And in the process, he banged on the pillar and asked Prahlad, where is your Lord? Is he in this pillar? And Prahlad Maharaj said, yes, he is in this pillar. And Narasimhadev came out and he killed Hiranyakashipu. So Prahlad Maharaj, even though he was a little boy at that time, only 5 or 7 years old, but always compassionate towards sinful persons. That's a devotee. That's a Vaishnava. Krishna is therefore known as Paradukha Dukhi Kripam Buddhi, or one who is compassionate towards others' suffering and who is an ocean of mercy. Like Prahlad Maharaj, all pure devotees of the Lord come to this material world with full compassion to deliver the sinful. They undergo all kinds of tribulations, suffering them with tolerance, because that is another qualification of a Vaishnava who tries to deliver all sinful persons from the hellish conditions of material existence. Vaishnavas are therefore offered the following prayer: Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, just like desire trees, and they're full of compassion for the fallen, conditioned souls. The chief concern of a Vaishnava is to deliver the fallen souls and everybody in the material world, whether financially rich or poor, whether intelligent or not intelligent, whether successful or unsuccessful, everybody is a fallen soul, fallen from the spiritual world. So the Vaishnavas, actually, they make no distinction. They want to save everybody. So only distinction a preacher makes is whether a person is envious or non-envious of Krishna. So if he is envious, he doesn't preach to him totally, because of the enviousness, the person might say something or do something that will definitely take him to hell. So that's also compassion of the devotees or the Vaishnavas, that they don't want to preach to envious people, because they're protecting them from going to hell. So one has to be just intelligent to see whom to preach to. Veervarya pitah prithvya samah sanjeev shashvati yasya drishya achyute bhakti sarva lokak bhartari. All the saintly Brahmins thus addressed Prithu Maharaj, O best of the warriors, O father of this globe. May you be blessed with a long life, for you have great devotion to the infallible Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all the universe. Prithu Maharaj was blessed by the saintly persons present at the meeting to have a long life because of his unflinching faith and his devotion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although one's duration of life is limited in years, if by chance one becomes a devotee, he surpasses the duration prescribed for his life. Indeed, sometimes yogis die according to their wish, not according to the laws of material nature. Another feature of a devotee is that he lives forever because of his infallible devotion to the Lord. It is said, Kirtir yasya jivati. One who leaves a good reputation behind him lives forever. Specifically, one is reputed as a devotee of the Lord undoubtedly lives forever. When Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was talking with Ramanand Rai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, what's the greatest reputation? Ramanand Rai replied that a person who's reputed as a great devotee has the greatest reputation. For a devotee not only lives forever in the Vaikuntha planets, but by his reputation he also lives forever within this material world. So just like the reputation of a devotee, we are reading about all these devotees in Bhagavatam. Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Narad Muni, King Prithu, there's so many, Yudhishthira Maharaj. So why? Because their reputation is there forever, because they are devotees. Aho vayam hiyadya pavitra kirte tvaya nathen mukunda natha ya uttam shlokam tamasya vishnur brahmani devasya katham vyanakti. The audience continued, Dear King Prithu, your reputation is the purest of all. For you are preaching the glories of the most glorified of all, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Lord of the Brahmins. Since due to our great fortune we have you as our master, we think that we are living directly under the agency of the Lord. The citizens declared that though being under the protection of Maharaj Prithu, they were directly under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This understanding is a proper situation of social steadiness within this material world. Since it is stated in the Vedas that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer and leader of all living entities, the king or the executive head of the government must be representative of the Supreme Person. Then he can claim honor exactly like the Lord's. How a king or leader of the society can become the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also indicated in this verse by the statement that because Prithu Maharaj was preaching the supremacy and the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, he was therefore a proper representative of the Lord. To remain under the jurisdiction or administration of such a king or leader is a perfect status for human society. The prime responsibility of such a king or leader is to protect the Brahminical culture and the cows in his state. So again and again, protection of Brahmins and the cows is stressed upon. And the citizen said, because you are preaching the glories of the Supreme Lord, and you're protecting the Brahmins and the cows, it's like we are living directly under the protection of the Lord. Nati adbhutamidam natha tvajivyanuशासनम prajanurag mahatam prakritihi karunatmanam. Our dear Lord, it is your occupational duty to rule over the citizens. That is not a very wonderful task for a personality like you, who are so affectionate in seeing to the interest of its citizens, because you are full of mercy. That is a greatness of your character. A king's duty is to give protection to his citizens and levy taxes from them for his livelihood. Since the Vedic society is divided into 4 classes of men, the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras, their means of livelihood are also mentioned in the scriptures. The Brahmins should live by spreading knowledge and should therefore take contributions from the disciples, whereas a king should give protection to the citizens for their development to the highest standard of life. And he can therefore levy taxes from them, businessmen or mercantile men, because they produce foodstuffs for the whole of society, can take a little profit from this. Whereas the Shudras, who cannot work as either Brahmins, Kshatriyas, or Vaishyas, should give service to the higher classes of society and be provided by them with the supply of the necessities of life. So this is how, of course, in more details are given the duties of all the Varnas and Ashrams by Narad Muni, I think it's in the 7th canto. But here's some glimpses given. The symptom of a qualified king or political leader is mentioned herein. He must be very merciful and compassionate to the people and see to their prime interest, which is to become elevated devotees of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Great souls are naturally inclined to do good to others, and the Vaishnava especially is the most compassionate and merciful personality in society. Therefore, we offer our respects to a Vaishnava leader as follows. So only a Vaishnava leader can fulfill all the desires of the people, and he is compassionate because he is a contributor of the greatest benefit to human society. He is Patitapavan, the deliverer of all fallen souls, because if the king or head of the government follows in the footsteps of Brahmins and Vaishnavas who naturally lead us in missionary work, the Vaishyas will also follow in the footsteps, and the Shudras will give them service. The entire society becomes a perfect human institution for combined progress to the highest perfection of life. See, that is the goal of life, to work towards self-realization. It's not to open big factories or do so many discoveries or inventions in IT that I can make more and more money by selling my product. That's not the goal of life. But people, they don't know the real goal. So they're wasting their lives in making so many discoveries and then putting so much of time and energy in these kind of discoveries just so that they can make more and more money and have more prestige, more followers. But these kind of followers, they only follow money or power. They don't follow the person. Because if tomorrow that person is not there, these guys will just go away because they are following the money, not the person. So the entire society can become perfect if there is a king like Prithu Maharaj, and then everybody follows his duties of Varna and Ashram properly. Adyanas tamsa paras tvayopasaditah prabho brahmetam nashta drishtinam karma bhirdeva sangyatah. The citizens continued, "Today you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. By our past deeds and by the arrangement of the superior authority, we are entangled in a network of fruitive activities and have lost sight of the destination of life. Thus, we have been wandering within the universe." In this verse, the words karma bhir deva sangyate are very significant. Due to the quality of our actions, we come to the association of the modes of material nature, and by superior arrangement, we are given a chance to enjoy the fruitive results of such activities in different types of bodies. In this way, having lost sight of the destinations in life, all living entities are wandering in different species throughout the universe, sometimes getting birth in a lower species and sometimes existence in higher planetary systems. Thus, we are all wandering since time immemorial. It is by the grace of the Supreme Master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead that we get the clue of devotional life. And this progress saves, and thus progressive success in our life begins. Here it is admitted by the citizens of King Prithu in full consciousness. They admit the benefit they have derived from the activities of Maharaj Prithu. So Maharaj Prithu that's why he's an ideal leader. Adi Raj is called. The original king, the original leader, because he's leading them in both ways, spiritually and materially. So materially, he even punished Earth when she was not producing the grains and the foods that was necessary for the citizens. And spiritually, Prithu Maharaj is setting an example by himself, following the rules. So the citizens, they say, "Today you have opened our eyes and revealed how to cross to the other side of the ocean of darkness. Namo vivriddha satvaya purushaya mahiyase yo brahm kshatram avishya bibhartidam satejasa." Dear Lord, you are situated in a pure existential position of goodness. Therefore, you are the perfect representative of the Supreme Lord. You are glorified by your own prowess, and thus you are maintaining the entire world by introducing Brahminical culture and protecting everyone in your line of duty as a Kshatriya. So this is real Kshatriya. Without the spread of Brahminical culture and without proper protection from the government, no social standard can be maintained properly. This is admitted in this verse by the citizens of Maharaj Prithu, who would maintain the wonderful situation of his government due to his position in pure goodness. The word Vivriddha Satvai is significant. In the material world, there are three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. One has to be raised from the platform of ignorance to the platform of goodness by devotional service. There is no other means for elevating one from the lowest stage of life to the highest stage but the execution of devotional service. So that's why it says in Bhagavatam, Sharnvatam Sakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hirdantastoya Vadrani Vidunoti Surat Satam. When one engages in devotional service, in the first stages of hearing and chanting, the Lord, who is in everyone's heart, helps the devotee in cleansing his heart. In the gradual cleansing process, one is relieved of the influence of passion and ignorance and is situated on the platform of goodness. So, the result of associating with the qualities of passion and ignorance is that one becomes lusty and greedy. But when one is elevated to the platform of goodness, he is satisfied in any condition of life and is without lust and greed. This mentality indicates one's situation on the platform of goodness. One has to transcend its goodness and come to the level of pure goodness called Vivriddha Sattva, or the advanced stage of goodness. In the advanced stage of goodness, one can become Krishna conscious. Therefore, Maharaj Prithu is addressed here as Vivriddha Sattva, or one who is situated in the transcendental position. But Maharaj Prithu, although situated in the transcendental position of a pure devotee, came down to the position of Brahmins and Kshatriyas for the benefit of the human society, and thus gave protection to the entire world by his personal prowess. Although he was a king, a Kshatriya, because he was a Vaishnava, he was also a Brahmin. As a Brahmin, he would give proper instructions to the citizens, and as a Kshatriya, he would rightly give protection to all of them. Thus, the citizens of Maharaj Prithu were protected in all respects by the perfect king. So these are the qualities of Maharaj Prithu that makes him an ideal king, original king. He was a Kshatriya and he was a devotee at the same time. So both ways he sets an example for his citizens, or protects them, maintains them, and provides a spiritual platform for them so that everybody can make progress. And he sets a good example by himself also, by respecting the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas and protecting, maintaining the cows, respecting demigods, respecting the Supreme Lord, respecting everybody. In fact, all the citizens, he gave respect, and he had good relationship with them. So that's why he is considered an ideal king. So we'll stop here, and this ends the 21st chapter of 4th canto. Tomorrow we'll start the 22nd chapter. Anybody have any questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhuji. Wonderful chapter.
Thank you, Mata. Okay, so we'll stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna.